Welcome to episode 20 of the Non-Fun Gerbils podcast. I'm Luke.
And I am George.
And we're just going to have a quick recap on what's happened since the last time we spoke, because we've had a bit of a quiet August. But we had our big end of year party in Cryptovoxels with the Whip crew, and had 100 or so people all come have a big party in our Gerbils HQ and take part in our treasure hunt. So in fact we had two treasure hunts. So we had one in Cryptovoxels where we sent people off in all the neighbouring parcels where people had allowed us to hide clues in their builds, and people were off for hours, weren't they?
Well, I certainly was. I couldn't make heads or tails of where I was or what I was doing. I think I actually managed to do the that particular hunt. In the end, I got there. I think I just started following people around aimlessly, and gradually got there in the end.
Yeah, that's
it
right,
wasn't that easy.
I didn't actually tell you the answers to the clues. I just let you let you figure it out as you went.
There was definitely some back channel chat happening at the time. I was like trying to signal you, being like, I'm lost. I don't know where I am. But yeah, it was good fun.
It was good, and the event was really good, and it was hilarious that you turned up naked, a naked avatar.
Listen, it's embarrassing. I couldn't gain access to the right MetaMask at that particular point in time, and so naked I was. But I don't think anyone noticed. Anyway, you were the star of the show. I just skulked around in the background trying to find clues, so no, in the end it didn't matter.
I think it's one of those epic moments. And then we had our second treasure hunt, the big one that we've been building all year. In case you missed it, we have hidden a seed word to a wallet in every episode gerbil for the last year, and this is a massive undertaking.
Mission Impossible? I mean, not quite, perhaps. But.
It is. I mean, it's possibly the most convoluted, long game treasure hunt that's been created in the NFT space, at least. We've spent a whole year building it, and then it's nearly impossible to solve.
That's right. So, we've had some really fantastic efforts from people. I mean, some people have crunched some quite serious numbers of variations, and that's amazing to see. It shows how good the prize basket actually is.
Yeah. At one point 2 weeks ago, the value of the pool of assets was around $9,000.
Well, that's worth some crunching.
Having had the price of whale go up so far. So yes, we've been dropping additional clues in the Discord to help people along, because, well, we don't want people to be searching and just never get there. So eventually someone will get it. Yeah, we'll just keep dropping extra clues until that happens.
Yep.
So yeah, huge thank you to everyone who's donated, because the basket of assets is donations by people who've come on the show over the last year. So our amazing guests have been very generous. And the other bit of news that we had was our whale grant. Suddenly we found ourselves with whale that's worth a lot more, and we've got to distribute that into the community in various ways. We've
been having fun coming up with ideas.
Yeah, so the idea is that we use it to build the podcast and build our community. So because we've got all of this whale to grow with, we have been running extra competitions. The first one we did was to animate a gerbil. We want to boost our gerbil holders by having an AR layer to each of the gerbils, so that you can hold up your phone, see the gerbil, and it come to life. That's the vision. And so, yeah, the winner of that was Dragonate. He did an amazing job. In fact, we had loads that did a really good job.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing the quality that came in, actually.
Yeah, the quality was really high, and there was a lot of entries as well. But Dragonate did such a great job, and we have commissioned him to animate the gerbil at the end of this show as well. So you've got that to look forward to. So, on with the show?
On with the show.
Okay, today we are joined by Ben Nolan, the founder and lead developer for Cryptovoxels. We dive into the long-term vision for the virtual world, upcoming features and development, the funding model, VR, sharding, scaling, and much more. We really enjoyed this conversation and hope you do too.
Welcome to the Non-Fund Gerbils podcast, the show about digitally scarce gerbils, non-fungible assets, and the growing decentralized economy.
Ben, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You're somewhat of a legend in the NFT space, and from what I hear, a rock star in web VR circles, because you've sort of single-handedly almost built this virtual world, which is now so widely adopted.
I always wanted to be a rock star. Being a rock star in the web XR, web VR spaces, I don't know what I would have hoped for when I was a teenager, but I definitely enjoy it. I don't know. I think pretty much everything I've built is built on the backs of other people. There's some pretty amazing people in the Babylon JS and in the NFT space with Ethers and Web3 and OpenSea and with OpenZeppelin and stuff. So everything I've built is kind of built off the shoulders of other people's stuff. So it's been really fun pulling it all together, and it's been really fun building it for the community. But I don't know.
That was a quote from Jin from an interview that he did. So.
Thanks, Jin. He's too kind.
So, well, maybe we could start with your interpretation of what is Cryptovoxels, and how it came to be.
Yeah. So, oh man, what is it? It came from reading Snow Crash, which is a book by Neil Stephenson about the metaverse, which I think some people have read, and it's got very similar kind of vibes to Ready Player One, which is the same kind of, which is the idea of it, kind of a virtual 3D world that people can inhabit online. So instead of going to, I think it's in a large part, it's trying to reinvent the web, but do the web in 3D. It's trying to build a large world where people own distinct parts of it, where people can build in it and have good tools to build. But instead of it being a 2D space, like all the current big kind of websites and like the entire web is, to do it as a 3D space. That's what I'm sort of realizing with time, is that it really is just trying to take everything that we do in 2D, but do it in 3D, and to try and do it in a sensible way, like not just doing it for the sake of it. Like we're not just doing 3D because as a gimmick, we're doing 3D because I really believe in it as a space, and there are some things, especially exploration and especially in terms of your focus, that really get enhanced by 3D. Like going to a gallery in 3D and exploring it is just a very natural kind of thing. We do it in the real world all the time, and so there are some things about it that work really well, and it's trying to make those things that work well in 3D, to enable them. Sorry, that was a very hectic, long-winded explanation, but that's basically what I'm trying to do. Build a sort of a 3D next generation web.
Well, that is actually, entirely what you've achieved. I went to a lot of Money's gallery, and I appreciated his work, but the experience of seeing it in 3D in Cryptovoxels completely changed my view of his work, and that was a very powerful experience, something that I couldn't have got in a 2D world. Did the whole sort of crypto art scene, was that part of the vision, or did you build it and they just came? How did that work out?
I built it and they just came. It was just totally a lucky accident. We had the 3D sort of structure of Cryptovoxels. You could build the buildings and you could place images on the wall. And then one morning someone asked me if I could make it so they could paste NFTs directly on the wall. So instead of copying the image and then just putting the image up, you could have the NFT, which links back to the OpenSea record, to the blockchain record of ownership of that NFT. That took like half an hour to build one morning. I turned it on, and there was just a step change in people suddenly using it for art. People suddenly had all this art which they had collected and were displaying on 2D sites, like Known Origin and stuff, and then suddenly they could quite easily put them up in 3D. So that was just a really happy accident that we happened to be there for it. I always had the view that I would like there to be lots of galleries, because I thought galleries would work well with the Cryptovoxels engine. It's just sort of something that it does quite well. But I didn't realize that there was so much demand for it in the NFT space for ways for people to be able to display their galleries and to display their collections.
And that's now sort of moved on into the social side of things with these WIP meetups. I've been to a lot, and in fact, Luke and I hosted one in our Gerbil HQ, and now, yeah. So it's sort of it's moved on, not just art galleries, but to social meetups. We had 100 people with their one-off costumes on, and their trainers that they bought together on a shopping trip at the end of the whip, and they spent the same amount of money on a pair of trainers than they would on a real pair of trainers, and the whole thing is just taken on I guess it's what happens when you put something like this in the hands of creative people. But could you ever have imagined of to where it's come now, and then where do you think, I guess, it's going? It would be interesting to get your perspective on that.
Yeah, so it amazes me the WIP meetups in particular. Just really like the builds always amaze me as well. Like the builds, just I love that I can explore the world and then find things which I didn't even know were there. I remember there must have been I feel like it was February last year or something, was the last time where I knew every single build in the world. I walked around when there were about 100 or 200 parcels, and I knew everything that was there. And then from there was some date last year, I was no longer able to keep up with what's in the world. And so whenever I go exploring the world, it's just as much a surprise to me as it is to anyone else. Just these little, and I love the little tiny galleries you find. The WIP meetups are amazing though, because I think the social side of Cryptovoxels, the tools, aren't as good as the building side. I think the building works quite well and you can build quite nice stuff, but I think socially exploring, I feel like there's a lot of work we need to do. And I love the WIP show the promise of what I guess what it actually really is, like as a social space, as a place to hang out and to spend time together. I think it works really well for those WIP meetups, and so it amazes. I'm so thankful that they're organised, that they're done, because I don't know. Like when I started Cryptovoxels, I always had the dream that we'd have 1,000 people in there one day, but it didn't feel like a very realistic thing. It was just kind of like a dream more than a. I didn't expect it to happen. Like I thought we could build like some cool galleries, and we could build a cool world that you could walk around from gallery to gallery and kind of have this feeling of being immersed in a larger world. I was pretty sure that we could do that, but I wasn't sure whether we would be able to do the lots of people concurrently, whether it would actually be a fun space for people to hang out. Yeah, so in the long term, I would like this to be a huge world. I'd like it there to be. I don't know, like the company, like the way I do it, because it's just me at the moment, it would have to change to get to that size. But I would love for there to be, 10,000 builds in the world or 100,000 builds in the world, and like have it be as popular a game or as well known as, sort of Roblox or Minecraft. That would be the long term goal for it. I don't know. I never would have thought we would have got to the stage of success that we are now. So I don't know whether we would get to an even bigger one further down the road. I remember when I started out, I just used to watch the OpenSea rankings, and I just wanted to get to the top of them. And then I think in November last year, we got to the top of the OpenSea rankings. So I was kind of like, cool, we did that thing. And we've dropped way down now because at the moment I'm focusing just on building new features and kind of experimenting with the world rather than really trying to pump it at the moment. But yeah, I don't know. I would like the world to get huge. I don't know exactly how that'll happen. I don't know what that roadmap would look like, but that's my long-term goal. And, my default choice is always that I get to keep working on Cryptovoxels. Like the way I've organised everything, because we haven't taken funding, because we're, self-funded and a really small team, it means that we can work on it for quite a long time.
Yeah, it's definitely become a lot clearer to me over the last 6 months, and certainly with the sort of global situation, that virtual worlds are a very powerful tool for online interaction and the sort of the future of social media, as it were. And Cryptovoxels in that time seems to just have expanded rapidly in terms of the user base and everything that's happening there. What's that been like keeping up with and scaling with that? How big's your team now, and is it growing?
Yeah, so I hired two people full time, a Babylon.js developer and a junior developer to help me out. And they worked on Cryptovoxels for about 6 months, but they've just finished up in the last month, so it's back to just me now. I think the thing with Cryptovoxels is that it's an extremely complex project internally. It's like when I look at it, I don't think it's that hard, but it is actually quite a complex bit of work. There's the multiplayer side of it, there's the WebGL side of it, there's the crypto side of it, and they all kind of interact and tie together. And then plus we have to deliver it all over the web, and it has to be really fast. So there's a lot of complexity going on at once. Yeah, so it's me, and then there's three friends that work on it sometimes. Nick, who did the baking, like the light map rendering. He's a really skilled graphics artist, so he helps me out from time to time. There's my friend Stig, who works with the infrastructure. He helps set up the multiplayer serving and stuff like that. And then we've got my friend Matt, who does all the audio and does the sound design and sound production inside the world as well. So between the three of us, between those three, that's sort of the people that help me out. They're all, most weeks they'll do 0 hours, some weeks they'll do 10 hours. It's mostly just me, but I've got the support from these other people when I need it, and they've got really deep skills, which works out well.
One of the things in the earlier days, it was sort of Cryptovoxels, and then there was Decentraland, and there was a big difference here that you were a one-man band almost at that point. And so you were able to pivot and change and implement new features quickly. And there was Decentraland, which was this behemoth of investment and partners, and it just seemed so slow to sort of get moving in one direction or another. And that was really played to your advantage, I think, there. How does that work now with keeping new features coming in and yet keeping people happy with the sort of the development and bringing in something new and that being unexpected for people? Is that a problem, or how does that work out for you?
Well, so I worked at Decentraland for a while. Before I started Cryptovoxels, I went to Buenos Aires and I worked with that team. And I've got a huge amount of respect for what they're doing and how they're building it. And we released before Decentraland, I guess. Like we were available, and you could actually be in the world for a lot longer.
Yeah.
A long time before they released. And I think it's similar when I look at the Sandbox. The Sandbox looks amazing, and they've sold a huge amount of land and they're doing really well. But the beta isn't open yet. So I think the biggest thing with these worlds is that you have your features available online, that you can actually build stuff and have it out there, and that people can build with it and experiment with it. And so in keeping with that kind of belief, I tend to ship stuff early and often. Like I will have a feature which isn't finished and which is buggy and which is weird, but when it does work well, is really cool. Like I think light maps are a really good example of that. Light map baking's got several really big bad bugs, but it's close enough that I felt comfortable to turn it on. And because it's only me, I would, a really cool thing about if I had a bigger team that was full time is that I would be able to get a feature most of the way and then punt it over to someone else to finish it off and smooth out the corners and round off the corners before it's released. And instead, I don't have that ability, so I have to do it myself, which means that I often end up building stuff with the community. I'll finish a feature, I'll put it out there with no instructions, but then the community will work out how the feature works. The community will work out, we'll sort of self-document it. The community will, bug check it for me and say, hey, look, this stuff works really well and this looks cool, but that doesn't work. And so I think that's the biggest difference between us and some of those larger projects, is because they've got larger teams and they've got the money to do it, they can polish these features a lot better. And so I feel like, I think we do reasonably well at keeping interesting features coming out. Like this year, we came out with wearables, and we came out with multiplayer serving, and we came out with light map baking. We came out with YouTube videos, and we've had a bunch of cool kind of stuff come through. And so I think our momentum's pretty good. And I think because the community is quite, I don't know, I guess they give me the time of day to do these experiments. We're allowed to keep building features in a a really rough and ready way. I get things as close to finished as I can, and then release them, and the community seems okay with that. And if there was lots of pushback, if everyone was like, I hate these broken features and I hate when you make things worse, then I think the development would be different. But whenever I ask people, everyone says, no, keep going forward, keep breaking things, keep improving things, keep doing things in a weird way, because, the community believes in the long-term vision, and they believe that I'm building something that they'll want to see too.
It's such a strong way of doing it, because you end up with a community that feels some form of ownership over the space. Not only because of the amount of time and energy and effort that they've put into building out their plots, but because they've various members of them will have potentially helped with the code base. It actually kind of really works in your favor over the long term, because of that sense of being part of something and having been in early and having been part of the community. So it seems like a really fortuitous way of building Cryptovoxels out.
It's a great relationship, the way the relationship between myself and the community. Like, I'm really happy with how everyone is, and a big part of like what I want to do with Cryptovoxels is, like, I sort of see it as, we're like Firefox or Mozilla or something, and we build the world engine and we build the tools for the world, but we don't actually build the content for the world. And also the rules for how people's parcels are and going on. Like, I'd like to have this idea of DAO islands, where an island is owned by a DAO, and then they get to decide how the land ownership works on that island. Like, maybe that's with a different kind of tax system, or maybe that's with a system where all the parcels are free, but you've got to do something else to retain your ownership. Maybe it's like a wiki style situation where everything's editable. Like, I really want people to self-organize in Cryptovoxels. I want us to provide the tools, and then the community self-organizes. Like, I really want there to be some build islands where you have to do a build to join the island. Like, you do a build in a disconnected space, and then you deploy it onto the island. So it's an island which is just has no empty squares. It's just full of interesting art. But I haven't done that yet, because I don't want to be the harbinger of, like, that's a good enough build or that isn't. I don't feel like that's my job in Cryptovoxels. I've tried to stay quite hands-off in terms of, like, what's good enough and what's not good enough. Like, we've got rules around what content is not allowed, but we don't have. But I don't want to be the guy that makes the rules on to say whether or not your art is good enough. I just don't think that's my role, and I don't think. Like, I have no special taste or no special skills in this area. So I'd really like to see the community sort of self-organise as projects like that come along.
Yeah, I mean, this enormous Pranxylang build that's happening, and I think launching probably as we're speaking, actually, it seems to have pushed up the quality massively in one big chunk of the world, due to just bringing in so many great builders all into one place and being a big event of it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And he adds a lot of value for that part of the world into his own, which is, largely owned by him, in his part of the world, which is, that's part of why I want people to self-organize and to organize islands themselves, because if you go to the effort of getting all these artists together and then they all build on your art, you kind of drive up the value of the whole area surrounding you, and, like, people should be able to capture some of that value. At the moment, it just randomly goes to someone who bought a parcel which just happened to be on the edge of Pranxyland. Yeah, so, like, that's what I mean by self-organizing, is that people are organizing in the world and they are doing really good stuff, but at the moment they don't have much of a way to capture the value of what they're doing. And I think if people could capture some of that value, then they could, because Pranksy could obviously sell, like, a small portion of his bundle or his parcel and probably make a really good return on it. So now it's so built up. But I hope that in the future there are more subtle ways where people can charge rent, or they can do events, or they can lease some land, or they can have some tax over part of their island or something like that, that everyone's happy with, because that way the money will go back into paying for their organisation, which will pay for their development, which will pay for their builders, which will pay for all that kind of stuff. So at the moment, how all those tools work is very rough, and I want that to be quite a lot fancier.
So, speaking about what's coming up in the near future, what features are you working on at the moment? What's your focus on?
So, well, my focus is on just currently the existing features and polishing them up really well, and fixing lots and lots of little bugs. Like, I'm always trying to make the world load faster. I'm always trying to make the world run smoother. Hiccups and jank where the screen stops moving or it misses some frames or your browser seems to freeze for like half a second. Stuff like that really annoys me. So that's always that's what my focus is constantly on. In terms of the new exciting stuff that I'm working on, which is more experimental, but I hope it comes off, is basically it's a whole bunch of stuff tied around Babylon Native because we use a language called Babylon JS, which runs purely in the browser. There's another version, Babylon JS, I think it's made by a team at Microsoft. But they've been working on this other project called Babylon Native, where it runs the exact same JavaScript code, but it doesn't run it in a browser. It runs it as a native exe, like an app that runs on your computer. I've been slowly porting the engine over to run in Babylon Native because that means we can have really good VR support. Because although we have VR support at the moment, you can go anywhere in the world and launch it in VR. You can't really navigate very well. There's no menus in it. You can't just launch it as an app. You've got to find the right browser, run the right browser, launch it in VR mode. It's quite complicated. So what I want to do, even though I don't think many people use VR, and even though I don't use VR that much, like I've got a headset on my desk at the moment, and I've got about 4 or 5 good headsets. Whenever I'm in it, it's so amazing and it's so realistic that you really feel a sense of presence of being there. And so I went to that. I'm not sure what the name of the parcel is, but it's the gallery where there's a couple of beanbags and a big bong, and he's got really nice light mapping that looks out onto some awesome art on the buildings outside him. And I went there in the VR headset the other day, and it was fantastic. I had a really, really it was just such a nice feeling. And so I really want to be able to explore the entire world. And I really want to bring in a whole bunch of people from the VR scene and show them, look, this cool art that we've built. Like Cryptovoxels is amazing because it's this game which is full of art, and it's, I play Doom sometimes, but I don't find that relaxing. But exploring Cryptovoxels I find really relaxing. So I want to be able to explore Cryptovoxels in VR. So yeah, that's the exciting stuff that's coming along. Another part of that Babylon native work means that we can do a better version of the app to run on mobile as well. Like, that's not such a priority for me. Like, I really want to get it to work. But at the moment, you can use the website quite well on mobile, so it's not such a big thing. Like, the VR support is definitely broken and can definitely be made, hopefully, about 1,000 times easier with this new Babylon native code. So that's kind of the stuff that I'm working on. In terms of, the day-to-day is just making it faster, making it smoother, reduce the bugs. And then there's to make baking work better and to make multiplayer scripting work better. I really want to do some competitions so that people can create some multiplayer games, which you can play in world with each other. And then, actually, because I think I wrote Tic-Tac-Toe that works as a 2-player game, but I really want to make some proper, interesting, fun multiplayer games and then have competition to encourage people to build those. So there's about 7 things I'm working on, would be the answer to that.
Nice. We made our own in-world multiplayer game for the Whip that we hosted. It was based on Marble Cards made a little sort of platform game where you had to get to the top. And so we made a 2-player version where you had to sort of race next to each other to get to the top.
Oh, that's awesome.
But it was insanely difficult, but it was fun.
I didn't even get to the top. It's terrible. My own Whip.
But I bought an Oculus Quest headset about 6 weeks ago, and have been having my mind blown by it. It's just an amazing bit of kit. I haven't really dabbled with virtual reality before, and I did try to get to our parcel from that, and it would sort of drop me in the middle of town, and I couldn't figure out which way was north and which way was south. And I sort of ran around headless for a bit, and then it would crash after a few minutes every time. So I sort of wait, hoping that you're going to work on that at some point. So yeah, that's music to my ears.
Yeah, it's the thing is with the VR support is that it's so hard to do really good web-based VR support. Like, it's definitely doable, and as you saw, you can explore in the Oculus Quest. But it's just, I don't know, I just want it to be really good. I don't want it to, and the web-based VR is always a little bit janky and always a little bit hard. And, as you will notice, you've got to launch the browser and then go to VR mode and then click the other button. It's not like just clicking a button in the home screen on your VR headset and then suddenly you warp to the world. And then when you warp to the world, it should have menus that pop up in front of you for if you want to teleport to find your own content or to go find something that's interesting. And I really want to do a good job with that. So, hopefully that'll be something that comes out sort of by around Christmas time this year.
Christmas time. Awesome. The other thing is the long-term economics of Cryptovoxels. Obviously, you've bootstrapped basically by selling parcels. How's that going, and is that the way that you're going to continue sort of self-funding going forwards?
Um, I don't know. Yes, because it works at the moment, and it's the easiest way, and it seems to connect quite directly between people buying land, improving the world. About half the time. Half the time they're just holders, and then the revenue going back to paying for the development of the world. So, I'd like to think that we come up with other models with time. We've experimented with different things. Like we've got the wearables collection, but the wearables, they don't sell very. They sell, we sell 1,000 times as much land and value as we do sell wearables. I don't know that I don't know what the answer to the economics question is. At the moment, I sort of treat it like, to be honest, I think selling parcels and growing the world bigger is what we should just do. I think focusing on other ways of making money or other ways of running the business, or other ways of funding the development, I think it's a distraction, to be honest. Like I'm all about distractions, and I fucking love distractions, and I will quite happily go and get distracted and try a new way of doing it. But I think selling land works really well, and also it's the connection is quite direct between people pay land, they expect the world to work, they expect to be able to build in it, and then although this isn't guaranteed, that people would like to be able to sell their land for slightly more than they bought it for if they chose to. So to do that, you want to encourage people to do builds, because if you buy a parcel and then that area of land gets built up with a bunch of builds, then if you decide that you want to sell because you can't hold it anymore or because you don't want to be in the world anymore, you'll probably get a little bit more because people want to join that interesting build. So although, us creating land, it being sold, and then people building on it, it is kind of to me, it feels like something we fell into rather than, it doesn't feel like, it's not some super advanced economic game theory way of making money. It's just it's the most obvious one that we came across, but it works quite well, and it does have quite a nice little feedback loop. I definitely think we need to change some of the stuff around how we allocate the land. I think the actual land sales on Wednesdays are a bit of a shit fight, and I don't think we should. I think it should be smarter. I think you should be able to buy near your friends. I think you should be able to submit builds and then get builds at get a parcel at a slight discount if you can show that you're an actual builder and you're not just investing in the world. I'm totally okay with people just investing in the world. It all funds the development. But I think we all love finding the bits of the world where there are lots and lots of builds next to each other, where you walk out the door and there's just more and more to discover rather than walking out into a big empty grid structure. So I think we're going to tweak the way that we do sales to encourage more builders, but I don't think we're ever really going to move away from creating new land in response to demand and then letting the world grow out from there.
Yeah, we in building our Gerbils HQ, which is 6 parcels all together in a block, we weren't able to get all of them, but I found that once a parcel sold, if we didn't know who bought it or couldn't find them on OpenSea or on Twitter, we'd just stick up a sign right next to, so that it was just like, please message us. And eventually we managed to swap with these people at other parcels at other places in the world and managed to build up a block of them all together, which was quite cool. So
we're very proud of it, aren't we, Luke?
We are, yeah. But I suppose the other thing is, like, how much runway do you have? That's one of the things that I always wonder when I think about the way that you're doing it, basically.
So we've got the money in the bank for me to work on this for like about 3 years, I think, at the moment. If it's just sort of me and hosting and stuff like that.
That's fantastic.
That's a massive runway.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of nice. It means that, and each week we sell enough so that we have slightly more, so that to pay more than the salaries. Like we had a couple of weeks there where I just wasn't selling anything, and we're not selling anything today because fucking MetaMask is broken. But yeah, exactly. We've got a bit. It's like it's similar to if we were a funded startup, but I think the interesting thing about Cryptovoxels and about the way that I've done it is that we haven't taken money. Like we've been contacted like a dozen times by investors, and especially investors in the crypto space, who would like to buy a little chunk of the company or to invest in the company so that we could, and I've thought about that, and like I mainly think about it in terms of like it would be neat to go and like that TV show Silicon Valley. They sell their companies at poorly or whatever, and then they go up and sit on the roof and drink beers and have a barbecue, and then don't work for 2 years because they sold their company to someone else, and you're part of this big organization now, and for some reason that like they make it look hilarious and fun. But whenever like if you look at Oculus, they sold out to Facebook, and now you've got to log in with your Facebook account to use your Oculus Quest or your Oculus Rift, and
awful.
I don't think that's that awful. I'm like, I see why they did it. They're just trying to, I guess it makes their development easier or something. But it's like, if I sold Cryptovoxels to someone and then you had to log in with your Microsoft account to play Cryptovoxels instead of just anonymously logging in using your MetaMask details where we know nothing about you, I feel like that would kill a huge part of what makes Cryptovoxels special. I think that anonymity and the respect for the crypto space and the respect that, if you've got the keys to your wallet, that is who your identity is. I feel like that's all really important. And I don't see, if Cryptovoxels got sold, how you would convince a company that to keep respecting that, and then that's the way it is. And I think if we took investment from investors, then they would probably want the company to they would definitely want the company to either be sold or the company to be listed on a stock market one day. I don't think I would like to run a public company. I think I like shit posting too much on Twitter and I'd get in trouble like Elon. I don't think I want Cryptovoxels to be sold to someone else. I think if we keep building the right stuff and selling land the right way, and if fucking MetaMask starts working again today, I think we'll be able to keep growing the company slowly. And I think, the problem with building the team is not so much the money to pay them. It's just trying to convince one of my friends that, like Matt's an amazing programmer, but this week he is doing music stuff and he's working on his music. And so I just can't convince him to come work with me. Like, the problem is finding someone amazing who's in New Zealand who can work with me on the team and can really grow the tech and kind of build the product bigger and bigger. And I think that's what will make the company bigger, and that's what will make it exist just outside beyond me. And I think, and I'm a huge amount of time for the two people that I hired this year to work full time, and they did excellent work. But I think it just goes to show that even though they had really good skills in 3D and in Babylon JS and modeling and in all that kind of stuff, Cryptovoxels is just such a hairy beast that unless you've spent years and years working on hugely entangled JavaScript projects, it's quite hard to get your head around. So eventually, I'd like us to grow into a company of a couple of people, and it was more than just me. But I don't really want to do that by raising money. I kind of want to do that just by, selling land, saving that money up, and then being able to do it ourselves. I think it just gives us the flexibility to become a really cool world and not to be beholden to investors or to someone trying to have some end goal for the company. I'm quite happy for Cryptovoxels just to exist. That's sort of my end goal. Well, it was a long answer. Sorry.
No, that's great, and that could end up being the key differentiator to a degree that makes your world, or our world, so special. Because I'd imagine that that's a view that very few people take. When you pour your heart and soul into something, it feels good for Silicon Valley to come along and buy it off you, and you can hang out on the roof and have a barbecue. And it's those that decide to take a different path that end up with a place where people perhaps feel like they want to be. I totally get the whole Oculus Facebook thing. I find that when something becomes hugely successful, very often they do become a victim of their own success, and suddenly things become fairly bland or not rich in the way that they were to begin with. If you can maintain that richness and that sense of fun, again pointing to 100 people treading water with the most extraordinary types of wearable stuff happening, and helmets and parrots and all kinds of things. That's really the recipe that I feel will bring people back. So it's incredibly cool to hear you describe it in those terms.
That theory that once something grows to a certain size, it always heads towards mediocrity and being stuck behind because it becomes too big to be able to react quickly and to be able to adapt.
It's a large part of why I think DAO, or self-organized islands, that exist as an organization and probably as a DAO, because that makes sense on the in the Ethereum space. That's why I think they'll be quite important going on, because I think the world will eventually get so big that that'll lose the entire world might kind of lose its distinct edge. But I think the areas of the world should develop a really strong community, a really strong kind of theme, a really strong kind of flavor. And by self-organizing those communities and letting people kind of own their part of the world, and kind of then hopefully as the world gets bigger and bigger and bigger, we'll get more to the situation where we supply the technology and we make the engine run really fast, and we make sure everyone can join it, and we make sure there's VR headsets and mobile versions and everything like this, and we still make some percentage of the revenue from creating the land and selling it. But that real interest and the real kind of the joy will be created in these small groups and these small sort of self-organizing areas of the world that are on the map. So, I hope we get big enough that the technology gets boring one day. That is actually a hope of mine, that we get so big that and there's enough people working on the technology that it's just reliable and just works. Browsers are kind of boring. You don't see them when they work. I want Cryptovoxels to just work and you don't notice it, but I want there to be so much awesome stuff being built on top of it that that's where the kind of the wonder and the amazement is what people do in the world, rather than I want the technology to sort of go away and instead the world to come to the fore.
What's the situation here now with sharding and the amount of people that you can have in world?
Yeah, so I did a bunch of work on that before one of the first big whips, so that it would shard, so that it would have like 100 people per world. And we tried it all, and they went over the 100 limit, and it sucked. And they have sharding in Decentraland, but I don't know if everyone is that fond of it. So I've decided that we just won't have sharding, we'll just have everyone in the same world.
Great decision.
Yeah, exactly. Once there are 1,000 people or 10,000 people or whatever, you'll only get a sampling of who's actually in the world. Like, you'll all be in the same world and you'll all be in the same chat and stuff. But if you walk into an area where there are 1,000 avatars, I'm pretty sure we won't send 1,000 avatars down to your browser to render, because one, your browser can't render 1,000 avatars, and two, it'll clog up the multiplayer connection that you have to the server. So I think at some point it'll only display your friends, will always be visible, people on your friends list once we have a friends list. And then it'll display a random sampling of the anonymous users. It probably won't show you every single one of the anonymous users. So there might be 1,000 people there, but you might only see 200 avatars. So that's how we're going to make it work. Yeah, and not many games do it like that. So I don't know exactly how we're going to do it, but sort of the multiplayer stuff, I think I can get a lot of help with Nick from, and we'll probably do it in C++ and make it really fast, and then we'll have some nice algorithms. So, we only send you avatars that are near to you, and if there are too many, we'll only send you the ones that, you're probably most interested in and stuff like that. So that's the solution. There will be no sharding. There is still sharding at the moment, but I've increased the limits so that hopefully people never get kicked onto another shard. We got to, just make it so that you can see lots of people, because, it's kind of dumb if we made it so that if we made the world so awesome that there are 1,000 people in it, but you only ever saw 50 of them. Like, that's so fucking stupid. You should walk through the world and there should be people everywhere. And so that's the goal, and that's the goal by not doing sharding, is by having one huge world with everyone in it.
Yeah, there's nothing more disappointing than turning up to a big online party and realizing that you're on your own shard. You're like the 101st person.
Exactly. There's 100 people on the other one, and there's one on your shard.
Fantastic. George, did you have anything else?
Well, I just I guess I should just impart how much I enjoy spending time in Cryptovoxels. I'm still, getting. I haven't spent a huge amount of time in metaverses growing up as a kid. So I as I said, I didn't even get to the top of our little assault course that Luke and I made of pressing the wrong buttons at the wrong time, various things. But it's just amazing to have seen it take shape, because luckily, Luke and I have been here since very close to the beginning, and seeing it all happen and getting taken up with the land buying and the gerbils getting in there and getting some parcels and stuff. It's just, the whole thing is just extraordinary to watch it all take shape, and I guess carry on making it special and incredible for all of us.
Thank you. It's so nice of you to say that. I love doing it. This is the best job I've ever had, so I plan on doing it for a long time. And thank you for being part of the world, and thank you for buying into the world, and thank you for building in the world and being part of the community. Yeah, it's a, you know, if it was an empty world, it wouldn't be interesting. It's 100% the builds and the people in the world that make it interesting. So yeah, thanks so much for contributing to that.
Well, it's great to hear that you're not going to be selling to Facebook anytime soon as well.
Oh man, if I sell to Facebook, everyone will fucking be so angry with me. I don't think it's even slightly on the cards. So.
Yes, well, that's good. That's good. That would be a metaverse catastrophe.
It would be, wouldn't it? That would, yeah. I don't know. Like, yeah, no. It's. I think once there's, I think once there's 10 people, and I think once we've got everything set up so that everything's nice and regular, then it'll feel like a company, and I can take holidays again, which will be nice. So that's sort of my long-term goal. But it's it's just like I say, it's about finding those 10 people who are really, really good. And have worked on such complicated projects before, and also I think another thing about working with Cryptovoxels is I really like people to be part of the community and sort of on the Discord and chatting and stuff like that. Like, Destros, who's Noise Issues, who's the guy that does the music and the audio stuff in Cryptovoxels, he goes in and has big arguments with people on the Discord all the time before when he goes to implement a feature. And I really like that aspect of it. I really like that he's kind of quite involved in it. So even though he refuses to do any work at the moment because he's playing music, I do like, I like the people that we've got around us. I like the community. I like the mods. I like, we're slowly building our way to being like a pretty awesome project.
Awesome. Well, fantastic. Thanks very much for coming and chatting to us. It's great to finally catch up with you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, thanks so much for your time. And it's, we should do this again in another couple of months. It's lovely to talk to you both.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ben.
Right. Thank you very much, Ben. That was brilliant.
Yeah, that was so much fun to do. Thanks, mate.
On to gerbils.
Yep.
Gerbling time. we had some great entries, as always, for forking gerbil. So
that's right.
This name was put forward by Rude Moose. So yeah, thanks for the suggestion. Yeah, we've rolled with it and seen what everyone can come up with.
Who's first?
How about Third Man Design? Do you want to do that?
Okay. So, at Third Man Design, thank you very much for this one. Hey fitness fans, are you ready to get forking? Say au revoir to Pilates. Say sayonara to Zumba and adios to CrossFit. It's time to get with forking. The best thing on the fitness scene since the Romans stopped releasing lions. Swap your workout for a fork out. Forking Gerbil finished off the press release with a flourish and was truly excited about the marketing plan he had just prepared. The social media managers were already whipping up the hype. Influencers were sharing their forking experiences. Fitness freaks everywhere were encouraged to send "I want my hashtag forking" to their local gym. He leaned back and imagined where the forking empire could go. If he could make forking viral, from elite forking leagues where the best competed, to leisure forking groups for the elderly who just wanted to stay flexible. His name would be everywhere, and he loved it. But there was no time to waste daydreaming. Enough lying about, he cried. Let's get forking.
That's visionary.
Well, it is, but I'm trying to work out what the actual forking is and whether I should be doing it. I mean, being slightly rotund in stature, perhaps I should go fork myself.
Well,
okay.
Maybe that's what he's trying to say.
Okay, on to the next. Quickly.
Okay. The good news. Chris, thank you very much. Here is your entry. 20 days later, Mother had 2 boys curled in the wood chips, but winter was coming, and only enough sunflower for one. Which to keep? George was longer than Luke, 6 versus 4 centimetres. So he got the forking gerbil onesie. Dark gerbils quietly absconded with Luke to keep him alive in their cave.
Yep, that is a one-off.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to make of that last one. Does that mean that I get to live, or does that mean that you get to live?
I get a onesie that's in the shape of forking gerbil, and you disappear to a cave, mate. Sorry. I get all snuggles. I get snuggles in the wood chips. You get dark cave with dark gerbils.
Do you just get forked into oblivion?
I think that sounds more like you, mate, to be honest, with the dark gerbils in the cave. I think I'm pretty safe in my onesie. Not going to lie.
Okay.
You definitely did not luck out there, my friend. Moving on, we have Snotty Snake. A precious seed chain. Exploit chaos. All is lost. Forking gerbil saves. Once again, that's unique and one-off. And, short and to the point.
It's his haiku. I guess he's summing up the uniqueness and the preciousness of Bitcoin. And then chaos ensues, and then they just fork it, and everything's fine.
Yeah.
BSV is separated off, and they can go do what they want.
Said in very few words. I like it. Who's next?
Okay, next up we've got Alan Falcon. Forking gerbil stood at a crossroads. He closed his eyes and imagined taking the first path. He pictured a cozy stroll past ancient maples, the leaves just starting to transform into their autumnal hue. A cool breeze tickled his fur. He smiled. He opened his eyes and cooed gently. Then he looked to his right and pictured the other path. Grease stains, abdominal bloating, terrible thirst. And yet, what the fork? How bad could it be, he thought, as he pried open the canned cheeseburger.
Yeah, I would definitely eat cheeseburgers rather than going for a walk in ancient maples, so good on you, mate.
Canned cheeseburgers, clearly a theme. So I believe we discussed it when he was on the show, and it featured in Prepper Gerbil. Prepper Gerbil lives on canned cheeseburgers. They are a staple long life burger, apparently.
Cool. Well, this is all sounding really normal and not at all weird. Moving on from the canned cheeseburgers, who's next?
So, on to our winner, Anonymous Nobody. Congratulations. Your story is now Forking Gerbil.
Certainly is.
To read that story out, we have a special guest.
Fork the forking forkers, cried Forking Gerbil to the Maximalists. Just then, Roger Caver stepped up with his fork. Fork you, the crowd screamed. Then Craig Wright and Calvin Eyre stepped up with an even shittier fork. Fork off, yelled the crowd. Then Satoshi stepped forward with his fork of all fiat currencies. The crowd went wild. Fork, yeah, they cheered. Forking Gerbil had found the worthy fork.
Fantastic. That was very well read.
It was indeed.
And a great story. I like that you've mentioned a lot of the key people in the Bitcoin Cash space. And a popular opinion has been voiced.
And yeah, voiced very well. So thank you for that.
So
next gerbil is?
Next gerbil is Farmer Gerbil.
That's right. Farmer Gerbil.
Farmer Gerbil. We know about farming, don't we?
No, we used to farm a lot, me and you, Luke, back in the early days. That sounds weird, doesn't it? Don't think we'll put that in. Yeah.
Farming gerbil. Yes, very topical. This could go many ways.
It could.
You can just lead the way, please. Our audience, that is.
Absolutely. Yep. Looking forward to seeing what we get. Great stuff, Luke. Well, that was another fantastic episode. Really enjoyable. Some brilliant responses there that we've read out. Looking forward to the next one.
And come join us on our Discord. We've got lots of giveaways happening, so lots of competitions.
And some more clues to the Mission Impossible.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you to Dragonate for animating Forking Gerbil. He's done a great job.
He has, yeah. Thanks, mate. That's some serious skills you got there.
Cool. Right. See you next time, George.
Yep. See you, mate.